Good morning, it's Steve at Hornby Militaria again. This morning I'm in the village of Wolverley, which is near Kidderminster, just to the northeast. And I am on the high ground to the east of the site that was the 52nd General Military Hospital. That was an American unit. They arrived here in early 1944. One of 7 or so American hospitals in Worcestershire, 5 in Malvern, as I've already done a video on. There were 2 different sites in Bromsgrove, and there was this one here. Now, before the Americans arrived, there is reference to a British hospital here. I've seen tent cities referred to, tented hospitals essentially, treating casualties from Dunkirk. If anyone can find any documentary evidence of that, I'd be very interested to see. But I know for a fact that in early 44, the 52nd Hospital set sail from New York on the Queen Elizabeth. They were based at Syracuse, raised in 1941, Syracuse in New York State. And they came over as one of a number of hospitals to treat the expected casualties from the invasion of Europe. They had quite a good reputation, the 52nd. Reputation for good care, reputation for not losing many of the soldiers that they had here. And they were here for around about a year and a half. It's quite a big site. It's mostly cleared. There are some bits left. The officers' mess building was here up until about 4 or 5 years ago, and just a bit like the Malvern site. I'm a few years too late to see that particular building, but there are still some elements left. So I'm going to throw up a then and now picture of the main entrance road, the entrance gate. You can still very clearly see the brickwork walls that are at the side of the entrance. You very clearly make those out. There's some hut bases as well on the right hand side, which is the eastern side where I am. It was one of the habitation sites, I think, for the male doctors and staff. Most of the ward buildings are gone beneath football playing fields, but there's quite a few pieces where I should be able to do a then and now photograph to show you how it's changed. And like I say, there are still some buildings left a bit further down there. I've got a new toy to play with, drone. Don't know what the video footage is going to be like, whether it's going to be usable, but it should at least get me over some of the inaccessible areas to, it's the original fence. It should get me over some of the inaccessible areas to try and take then and now shots of bits that are currently on private land. But anyway, we'll have a walk around and see what we can find. So this is one of the barracks sites on the eastern side of the road, the entrance road. The former officers' mess building is where those houses were. What we have left here is essentially the bases of Nissen huts. This was one of the accommodation areas. I think this may be one of the male staff's accommodation areas. The female staff, I think, was on the other side of the playing fields there. But apart from the buildings, you know, the original pathway is still here. The concrete bases are still here. Not sure what's scheduled to happen to this site. Whether this will eventually be developed as well. Be a bit of a shame if it was. So this is another base of a Nissen hut. There's a couple more ahead as well there. Some brickwork remaining. This is probably the most intact of the Nissen hut bases. Still got some of the brickwork around the edge as well here. Yeah, that's interesting. There's a tree growing in it. Very interesting. Anyway, let's get back to the main part of the site. So this is an area that used to house a number of Nissen huts. This was the doctor's accommodation. There are some excellent photos taken in this corner of the field, which I'll throw them up now on the video. You see the tree line behind the huts. That's the tree line I'm currently stood inside of. There are more buildings visible through there, and we'll see how close we can get to those. And there's another building which you can't quite see through the tree line there, that is football changing rooms, and we should be able to at least get alongside that because that is open to the public. Anyway, this was the site. There were about 12 huts here. It's very distinctive. You can easily work out which bit of the hospital it was because of the slope of the land. So this is now onto the main site. Ward area was behind me. There's large areas of what is now tarmac. I assume they used to be concreted before. There's a large collection of photographs of the 52nd on the New York Heritage website, and I'll throw up the link just below the video. It goes right the way from being back in the US at Camp Livingston, quite a lot of Wolverley camp as well here. Unfortunately, the Google Earth historical imagery that I use to put myself on the site, so I know where I am, has at the edge of two photographs that don't quite align running down the main access road of the camp. The main access road is where the houses were there, and it's difficult to align them, so to work out exactly what was there. There is a very grainy image as well on the New York Heritage website that I'm going to rely on. So when I'm throwing up the overhead imagery, it's going to be two different images. One of them is very grainy, but it does at least show the site as it should be. But anyway, these are the football changing rooms. Building here obviously is original. I'm sure it must be original as well. The ward buildings were here by the football pitches. There's a caravan park over there. You can just see some caravans. That is where I believe the nurses' quarters were. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get the drone out, I'm going to fly it around for a bit, and I'm going to talk over some images that I've taken. If the video footage is good enough to use, I'll throw that up as well, and I'll narrate over it as to what I'm sort of seeing. But that's another building there. You can see this actually on some of the photographs. Just beyond the end of this building, you can see there's two trees. By those two trees there is a covered walkway, or at least the remains of a covered walkway, and you can very clearly see that on some of the photographs as well. Obviously these were used to transport patients between wards and between buildings without getting them wet if it was raining. But anyway, let's get the drone out.
I want these three images here. They're all taken from the New York Heritage website. The two buildings in the foreground have both been demolished, but you can see the covered walkway with the pillars quite well on this one. On this final image, between the two buildings, there is a third building visible, and that's the one that is currently still remaining. Now the video imagery from the drone was a bit rubbish, but this is one of the photos. It shows the football change rooms in the foreground and the larger building in the background. That's the larger building there. To the right hand side, top right hand corner in the clearing next to the trees, that's where the doctor's Nissen Huts complex was.
Right, so as I'm walking now, I'm almost immediately opposite the entrance to the or at least the turning off the main drive into the hospital. So I think the area immediately in front of me here would have been filled with ward buildings. There's some ward buildings down there, and behind this hedge line a bit further down was the nurses' quarters. That's the caravan park now. I'll see if there's anything I can do. There are some photos in that caravan park showing quite a slope on it, sloping downwards. That's how you can differentiate it from the Nissen Huts at the far end there. I'll see if there's any way of getting it there now. Probably not, I suspect. So there's another 2 buildings here, and these are clearly wartime. These are part of the caravan club. You can actually see them on the overhead imagery. This one in particular, I'm sure I've seen that. Obviously it's been re-roofed to remove the asbestos or something, but I'm sure I've seen that on one of the old photographs. So behind the 2 buildings here, going off in that direction towards that tree, is where the Nissen huts were that made up the nurses' quarters. I might have a walk down there, actually, see if I can see if they'll let me in. So I think from here, this is where the Nissen huts were, and you can definitely see a slope downwards there, which you can make out in some of the photographs. So this area is where the nurses living area would have been. This whole area on my left was full of ward buildings. The officers' mess, straight through those 2 trees in the middle there where the new houses are. The buildings that we've just seen at the top end there. So that would have been the full extent of the site. That was about as far north as it went. Just to the right of those buildings and the right of that tall tree in the centre of the field, there would have been more Nissen huts. That was the doctors' living quarters. Further living areas on the hills, on the ridge behind the new builds there.